Hi guys and welcome back. In this video we're going to be learning about list comprehensions with conditionals, which we can use to filter out some elements while we're putting them into a new list using list comprehensions. So let's say you've got some ages of your friends and you want to get only the odd ages. You could do something like odds equal age for age in ages. And that is a list comprehension that puts the value age for age, which is the new variable you're creating, in the ages list. So it's going to put every age in the ages list into a new list that you're calling odds. What you can do is, if you wanted to get only the odd ages, you can actually put an if statement at the end. If age modulus 2 equal 1. And what this is going to do is it's going to put this value into the new list if this conditional is true. And if this conditional is false, then it's not going to put the value in. So if we run that, you'll see 35, 27, and 21, which are the odd ages in the original list. Now, I appreciate that as soon as you start putting conditionals into a list comprehension, it does get a little bit more cluttered because you have the for keyword, in keyword, and if keyword all in one line. So something you have to be careful with when you're writing list comprehensions is that if it's getting too long and too complicated, you can split things out and move them outside the list comprehension, or you can just use a normal for loop like we learned in the last video to add to a new list. That can reduce the cognitive load on your brain because it can make the code a bit easier to read. So list comprehensions are good when they are kept simple and they help your code, but if they're too complicated, they can actually detract from your code. Let's say you've got the names of some friends and they are in a mix of uppercase and lowercase spelling, and then you've got another list of guests that have come to one of your parties. We're going to turn every friend in our friends list into lowercase so that we can easily compare them with our guests. But if we wanted to compare, now let's say we want a final list of those friends that have come to your party. So there are two approaches. The first approach is that you can turn all of these guests into lowercase as well. So you can do guests lower equal g lower for g in guests. So now you have two lowercase lists. If you turn both of these into sets by actually passing them through the set function, then you could print the intersection of the two. So friends lower dot intersection with guests lower. And this would give you those friends that are here and also here, which are Charlie and Rolf. So this is one way to do it. But it's a bit more difficult to get these names out as capital C and capital R, because in the sets you've got them all as lowercase. So instead we're not going to use sets for our approach, and we're going to use a list comprehension. We will create a present friends list. Because it's going to be a long list comprehension, I'm going to split it out into multiple lines. And you can do this, you can just put the square brackets in one line and in another, and in the middle you can write out your list comprehension. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the name for name in guests if the name dot lower is in friends lower. And what this allows me to do is put each of the names of the guests inside my new list if that name turned to lowercase is in my friends lower list. And of course, instead of just name, I can do name.title. If we print this out, you'll see the output here, which is Rolf and Charlie. Another benefit of this that might be a benefit or it might be irrelevant for your program is that the output is in order of the guests, so Rolf and then Charlie. When you turn these into sets, they lose the order. So potentially if this order had some sort of meaning in your program, such as who arrived first or something like that, then you would get to keep that if you use lists, but you wouldn't get to keep that if you use sets. As an aside, here's something that you probably should never do, which is nest list comprehensions one inside of another. Here you've got friends lower, which you know is this list comprehension here, which turns each friend into their lowercase variant. But you actually don't have to define a variable. You can just copy it and paste it in there and delete this variable entirely. But as you can see, this is a very dangerous thing to be doing because it quickly becomes unreadable. Splitting things out into variables is almost always the better choice because it's going to make your code more readable. If you do have a long list comprehension where one line is not enough, you can split it further into something like this. It's usual to have the first line as the new thing that you want to put into your list. The second line as the iteration over an existing iterable like this list. And finally, the comprehension, if there is one. Splitting list comprehensions in this way can be helpful to make your code a bit more readable, but it is a sign that it is getting a bit too long. So it's almost always better to put this here into a separate variable and either keep it in 3 lines or put it back into 1 line. That's it for this video though. I just wanted to show you that you can put if statements inside a list comprehension where it makes sense. Don't overcomplicate things. Writing simple code is almost always better than writing complicated code. Thanks for joining me in this video, and I'll see you in the next one.